Hey, it's Uso and Ging from Barefin Studios here with you today for a review on Destiny 2's newest expansion, Destiny 2: The Final Shape. Will it be good and in the 10-year-long story, well, or will it be yet another flop from Bungie? Anyway, allow me and Ging here to tell you our thoughts.
Alright, to start this off, I would like to say this video has two parts. A really short section about no spoilers and if it's worth buying for those that want to just find out if it's worth it. And next will be spoilers, of course. But neither of those will go as in-depth as our Barefin Insights that will go live a few days later, since when this video goes up. We don't know when. And so for no spoilers, skip to this time. I'm going to make a prediction. 342.
Probably wrong.
Now that's all the way. Let's go.
Woo! Gang! Come on, man! The DLC just came out!
No!
It's been 10 fucking years, man! Come on!
No! I can't go back!
No! You fucking come on!
No!
Come on!
No!
Get
Stop!
over
You
here!
can't make me!
Anyway, now that that's over with, we're gonna finally be able to start. It'll be on Legendary. It shouldn't be that bad. The ones in the past really haven't been that bad. It should probably only take like 6 to 10 hours, roughly. You know, you good with that?
I guess.
All right, let's get started. No, I'm fucking sick of this shit! Oh my god! Alright, so first off, we'll be scoring a little bit differently than most review shows kind of things on YouTube. So listen up. Our reviews will have 6 different things to score. These things are as follows: atmosphere/general effects, narrative, gameplay, OST, replayability, and just personal experience. I mean, most reviewers have personal bias anyway. Let's just be a little bit more upfront about that. After all these scores are put together, we will assign a letter rating along with a note from us on why we do or don't recommend what we are talking about. In this case, it'd be Final Shape. Anyways, for those of you who do not want any spoilers, I'm going to keep it very brief. We at Barefin strongly recommend this DLC. It's great narrative elements, along with some pretty good gameplay, lead to a really good time, honestly. Prismatic is okay, it's fun, has its issues. New subclasses are fun, they also have their issues, but generally, the DLC was the best Bungie has put out. I think, honestly, I can speak for all of us and we say that it deserves a A on our scale. So, strongly recommend.
To begin with atmosphere, I'm just going to go ahead and give the rating that we gave it, just so people can skip over all the stuff, because, I mean, I can't really talk about stuff without spoiling it, so we gave it an A-, which is our rating scale, and so you got 3 seconds before I get into why. Atmosphere is really important in telling a story, as it sets the tone and overall feel of said story. And with that in mind, I think the Final Shape nails that with a very strong first mission that really puts you in the mindset of awe and wonder that continues on for most of the story. While I do think that is great, I do think that some of the atmosphere and immersion is broken with the difficulty. As we both played it in Legendary, there were times where the repetitive waves and waves of enemies overshadowed the beautiful visuals. And we would be stuck in this encounter fighting the enemies, and the weight of what's going on in the background of the fight is lost. Even in the normal difficulty, the repetitive nature of the encounters bogs down the big moments, which we'll get to in the narrative section. There are some really great atmospheric parts, like the first mission, the Strike Liminality, the final 12-man mode, and I haven't played Salvation's Edge, but I have watched the raid race, and I think that the feel and look of the raid is amazing so far. But overall, I believe that the feeling and atmosphere of all 8 missions was great, and that they really tried to nail in that immersion. I think that, as we said when I first started this little thing, an A- is apt. And I just think that it was unfortunately bogged down by the repetitive missions.
Alright, so this is going to be a longer one. For those of you who are non-spoiler, it's an A. For those of you who are spoiler friendly, buckle up. Got 3 seconds, 2, 1. Okay, the story begins with us being transported into the entrance of the Traveler. We fight our way through and make it out into the Pale Heart. After reclaiming what seems to be the old tower, we have a heartwarming reunion with Cayde. After this, we spend the next few missions collecting the rest of the Vanguard. First Crow, then Ikora, then Zavala. Each of these missions delved into the unique approaches of the characters and how they exactly decided to tackle, beating the Witness. Of course, we get new powers, being Prismatic and a new light subclass, which we'll go over in more depth later in the gameplay section. But I digress. After getting everyone together, we are introduced to Zavala's loss of faith in the Traveler. This issue started when the Witness basically dangled his dead family in front of his face as some sort of sick offer. He refused it, but it affected him really strongly. I mean, this was briefly explored in Season of the Haunted, but honestly, it hit so much harder here because of all the things that were going on alongside his development. Also, just to kind of go into it, people did mention how they didn't like how this was kind of reverse character development, and I know we're going to be going over characters later in a different section, but I do kind of want to delve into this as it affects the narrative so heavily. Zavala back in Haunted had no chance of getting his family back, and it's a different thing to put something like that to rest when you don't have a chance of it coming back at all. But the Witness, Zavala fully believes he has that kind of power, and honestly, I don't know how I would react with a buried habit, that kind of situation. I mean, like, not habit, but buried, like, grief or getting me. Like, how would you, I don't know, family? Buried family. Yeah, buried trauma. I mean, and given his situation, I would definitely be questioning my faith too. That being said, though, his ghost Tarj tells us to go find him as he's wandered off. After following some statues, we discover that it's too late, and Zavala has entered this darkness, liquid, venom, super black thing. Anyway, there he actually talks to the Witness, and right before the Witness could sway him, Tarj hops out, defending him, and basically calls the Witness out on his BS. The Witness, though, being the literal main villain, remembered the main character wasn't in the room and quickly reminded Tarj that he wasn't that guy by crushing him. Zavala gets pulled out by us, but not before being talked to by some veiled creature, telling him how exactly to defeat the Witness. Lightless and scared, Zavala tells us what happened. After discovering how to fully defeat the Witness, we push. The final mission was a tough fight, but we finally pushed the Witness back by destroying some of the souls within him that disagree with his plan. Of course, this is just the base story. After the raid, we decided to fully stomp this man and bring out all our friends with a 12-man activity. The ending, like, it broke me. In our final push, we used everything we got and pushed a Witness. Unfortunately, though, it just wasn't enough. We end up talking to our ghost, and our only option is to channel the light through him. Of course, this burns the ghost out, and he dies. Along with that, we lose our light. But don't worry! As we plea to the Traveler to grant our ghost a second chance. I mean, he raised an army. Why couldn't he raise one ghost? Cayde steps out from behind us and reminds us, we're the fucking main character! And then sacrifices himself and puts light into our ghost. Honestly, though, as much of a joke as I made that scene, it's seriously great scene. Really makes Cayde character arc and the DLC feel complete. Again, we'll go over that later with characters. But we end up getting back to the last city and prepare for our next adventure. Now that we're finally done with that hellish synopsis that took fucking forever, I'm gonna break this down into another few categories, mainly just to make this a little bit easier to put in video format. But overall, I'm going to give you like a general idea here of the story. Story was good. I think that generally it really pulled at the heartstrings, and the fact that Bungie went with a more character-driven route rather than their attempts at trying to be a little bit more overarching, like Lightfall, and trying to answer so many different questions all at once. It didn't work for Lightfall, and it wouldn't have worked here. And I'm glad they recognized that. That being said, though, I want to get into pacing. So, pacing was honestly my main issue with the narrative. I think the issue really shows when it comes to the gameplay aspects, which I know this isn't gameplay, but like the gameplay does affect the story when you talk about things like encounters. And I know Ging mentioned this earlier, but that's kind of where the issues lie in this story. I think the mission lengths as a whole are fine, but generally start feeling monotonous. I think that each mission gets a mechanic, and it uses it in every single room. It can, low-key has exotic mission syndrome for each mission, but it's honestly not a huge deal. That being said, I feel like the campaign was a ton of fun. I just think that some of the missions felt like a chore to get through, narrative included. The overuse of darkness zones, while narratively accurate, were kind of bogging down the pacing. Like, in the mission where you're trying to find Zavala, I felt really hype when beating a darkness zone and opening that weird-ass gate that had like a ton of hands. It was really cool set piece. Just to run down a hallway and be hit with another darkness zone with another symbol mechanic in a random ass cave. And while these moments aren't difficult, they were definitely kind of agitating. Like, I understand why it happens, and I feel like this is still a better state than the campaigns have been in the past, but it still kind of affected the narrative. That being said, though, again, it really wasn't a huge deal. The campaign pacing overall was good. The only thing that really bogged it down was the gameplay aspect. I do understand this one is probably going to be the hottest take in this video, but it may just be a me thing, honestly. But I honestly just never felt like encounters that felt like that. Like, they just kind of feel like they exist without a purpose, like just to extend the mission length, or exist in a fashion accidentally or not that overshadows the atmosphere. And I think atmosphere, as we mentioned earlier, was a big part of narrative storytelling. And when you do this thing where you get like, not really difficult, but you extend the gameplay and have a room where you beat a ton of enemies with the mechanic, takes a little bit, especially if you're on legendary and doing it with 3 people. And the second you beat that, you get like 5 or 6 lines of dialogue. You walk down the hall, have to do another one, get 5 or 6 lines of dialogue, and then you go to a big room, fight a big boss, and get a cutscene. Each mission follows that kind of routine, and it does get a little monotonous as it goes on. And I think that that was its biggest enemy, which I will proudly say that's, again, better than Lightfall, because if you really look at Lightfall and think about Lightfall's bad part wasn't the gameplay. The bad part was the story. Like, it's a huge step up. I'm so glad that the issue with the story isn't the story. The issue with the story is the gameplay. And that can be fixed. I think Bungie, honestly, like I said earlier, exotic mission syndrome. They saw we liked exotic missions, how they have mechanics, and how they had all these like different kind of unique things we did, and they overcompensated and put them in every mission, which honestly, overcompensation to me when it comes to game design or any sort of design shows me that they're at least listening and they know what we like. And they were willing to make that big change to see if we liked something. And, you know, while I wasn't a huge fan of it, I know some people were. That being said, again, it's an A. Now, we're gonna move to characters, but we kind of split this up into heroes and villains, and Ging's gonna handle that one. So, enjoy.
Now, characters is really important for me. I get really attached to characters, and I love to watch how their stories kind of develop and just their mentality doing things. I really enjoy like character-driven stuff. which I think a lot of people do because it's just good. Now, there are a couple characters I want to talk about. I want to talk about the Witness, Ikora, Zavala, Crow, and Cade. So this is going to be a yap session, but I think that they all really need their own little part. Now, before I get really into it, the side characters were really good too. I wouldn't put the Ghost as a side character, but I'm not gonna go into a deep conversation about the Ghost. But I think the Ghost was really good. I think that the Ghost, him just feeling the light and how powerful it can be, and his sacrifice in the end is just good. But before I go into it, we're gonna do villains, which there's only one villain, and heroes. I'm gonna go into the Witness first. Now, there's a couple words that I think would describe the Witness the most, which is narcissistic, hubris, and I think just greed. The Witness is a collection of a race that they feel like we're abandoned by the Traveler, but they kind of brought that upon themselves. And I really like how they kind of explore the Witness in this DLC. I think that they do a beautiful job at putting a face to the darkness. And we really only got introduced to him 2 years ago with Witch Queen. So I think that building him up to be the big bad of a 10-year saga is great. The idea that these centers are inside the Witness and want to help you, I think it's just a great storytelling part, I guess I'll say. And I just like how he's not some tragic character that you can just feel bad for. He brought this upon himself. And I think that him having a 3-part battle is so fitting. Because the first fight was so bad, so hard. And going in there with the sword of light, basically, and like killing the dissenters, and literally, basically, killing the souls that make the Witness. The Witness was a good narrative choice, because in all reality, how would we be able to beat I'm just going to throw a number out there because I don't really know the number, but a billion person entity, I'll call him. He's really good. I think he's a unique villain, and just the fact that he was the only raid villain to make it out of a raid, I think is really fitting. So overall, I think that he was a great villain, and Bungie handled him pretty well. So I think we're gonna move on to the heroes now. Okay, I want to start this hero section with Zavala, and to kind of piggyback off of what Uso was saying about the people complaining about Zavala backtracking on his character development. I don't really think he did, but also I think that it is how people work. People kind of, relapse all the time, especially with like grief. Like, it's not just a one-way track. It's not just a staircase. You just continue. It's more like a slope. And you just gotta fight. And having his family dangled in front of him is I mean, heart-wrenching, honestly. I love Zavala in this DLC. I wasn't a big fan of him in D1, which, I mean, he wasn't really that much of a character in D1. So, but throughout D2, he has really grown on me since The Haunted, since, like, I really liked him in Witch Queen. I think him, like, questioning why the light and the Traveler would give ghosts to the Hive was really the beginning of his kind of fall. And I really think that them losing and Lightfall, or losing, really just hit home, because he was a man of complete faith, and every time that he needed the Traveler was not there. And honestly, he's kind of a mirror to the Witness in that way, because the Witness was a race of people that wanted purpose from the god that was giving them the power and the technology, and it never came. And so Zavala being dangled that in front of a person that kind of went through the same thing, of everything being just kind of the Traveler's fault because they didn't answer, which I think was just amazing. And him losing Targe and him hating on Stasis and Beyond Light to using Stasis in the final fight is just beautiful character development. He's honestly probably my favorite character in this DLC. Close second would probably be Cayde, but I do think that he is amazing, and him being, I believe, the main character, him and Cayde, was a beautiful choice. Now, speaking of Cayde, I was one of those people that was like, why are they bringing him back? I didn't like that they were bringing him back. But just, I love how they handled it. Him not just being the crutch that kind of guides you through the Traveler, but him just not knowing why he was there and his purpose. His question of purpose is kind of the theme of this DLC and what the Witness stands for, is what purpose is. And him not knowing why he brought himself, why he was brought back, and why the Traveler brought him back, which what he believed, the Traveler brought him back, and everybody believed that. And it turns out that it was just a wish from Crow, and him kind of dealing with that, he wasn't a chosen one. He wasn't just a chosen one that got to come back from his forever death. And not knowing what he was supposed to do to the 12-man part where he sacrificed himself to bring your ghost back. I think they handled him perfectly. Like, not making him just a character that kind of is there, but he's also just kind of the glue that stuck everybody together. And I really like that. And I think that Cayde was handled almost better than he was in Forsaken. I wouldn't say almost. I think he was handled the best out of any DLC that he was the main focus on. And I think that he was just great. I think we should move on to Crow. Now, Crow's development to becoming the new Hunter Vanguard, I think, was handled masterful. With the first opening cutscene, I will say the opening, but it's really the end of the last season. I don't remember last season's name. And the final cutscene of him realizing that he wished Cayde back, and him holding on to that secret, because as everybody kind of just praises the Traveler for bringing him back and not knowing why, to telling him and kind of just feeling guilty about killing Cayde, and him trying to deal with Amanda Holliday's death. And I think that for a relatively new character to the Vanguard that this is a main focus on, I think that he was great. And the kind of mission where Cade kind of handed off the Hunter Vanguard and the Dare was great. I liked Cade. Crow. Sorry. That's me. I think we should talk about Ikora. Now, I think that, me personally, I think Ikora was the least developed of this, but I think that's because we had the Witch Queen, which was a DLC all on her own. And she's pretty developed, honestly. She's there in a lot of missions and stuff. So, I think she's pretty well handled in this too. And I like how she's kind of the Zavala in this situation. The one that's like preaching about the Traveler and trying to like argue with Zavala, and Cade having to step in and be the glue. I think that her hypocrisy on rushing in like she did with the Witch Queen and telling Zavala to chill out, I think played out really well, and I kind of liked her. I don't have a lot to say about her though, because again, they didn't really do much with her other than her arguments with Zavala, but I think it was good. And to put the heroes kind of on a tier list for me, I would say Zavala. Well, I guess the way I went through them: Zavala, Cade, Crow, Ikora. And to throw the Witness in there, I think I would put the Witness under Cade. The main character. I don't know what to talk about the main character. I mean, the main character was cool. He got new stuff, and the ghost, I kind of already went over the ghost, but watching my character kind of, because they told us to take off the mask, and watching my character's reaction to Cade sacrificing himself to kind of save my light hurt. Like, because I play a Awoken Titan, and I've had this Awoken Titan since D1, and just seeing and I loved Cade. I thought I loved Cade in the Taken King and Red War. I think he was just a great character. And my character losing them again, but in a different fashion, just, it hurt. I think that, oh, we also got our sword, Ergo Sum. but, yeah, I don't really have much to say about the main character. Do you, Uso?
I mean,
Lone Wolf supremacy.
Lone Wolf, baby.
Alright, I think that's all we got.
OST is something I feel is often overlooked when it comes to reviews. Music isn't just important for establishing atmosphere, but often helps us connect emotionally to the moment or character moment at hand. That being said, this DLC has a wonderful OST, full of memorable old motifs and iconic new ones. Now, before this next part, I want to explain why I'm the one talking about this and a few other things. I am currently in college as a music major. That being said, I love playing, listening, and even occasionally composing music. And on top of that, the Destiny composers are among my favorite. They're like my favorite composers. And that being said, I want to talk about my thoughts as a person who really does enjoy music. Sorry if you hear my dog in the background. She's just kind of chilling. I think the soundtrack was good. I do think it struggles just like the campaign did with like mission diversity with OST diversity. And I don't think that's the campaign. I don't think that's the OST's fault. I think that it based itself off the campaign, or kind of like what they had an idea for the campaign, so it was very combat heavy. That's kind of just how the OST feels. It feels very like go. And while I'm not against that, and I think that those tracks do sound nice, I look back on past OSTs, Beyond Light, Witch Queen, even Lightfall, and I'm like, you know, this OST, I feel like, is missing some of the tracks that are like, just sit here and look, like, enjoy the moment. And I think that's the only downfall of this OST track. And that being said, I rated it a B+. It's still really good. I mean, hell, it's by my favorite composers, so it's a little biased, but I still think it's really good. Michael Salvatore, Seacrest, but they did great jobs. I think that it was a solid thing. It got the job done. My only issue is I wish there were more melodic tracks. To give some examples of really good tracks to look past in the past, I mean, you have obviously Deepstone Lullaby, you have Journey, you have Questioning the Light, you have Second Thoughts, all of which from past DLCs. And this one, I think it has, I want to say, like, 2 really melodic tracks, and that's A Knife in the Garden and After All This Time. That being said, that's not like the only good, you know, tracks. No, there are a solid amount. I want to say, I think like I have like 7 or 8 of them on my editing playlist, but they're really good. Even like that Go 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 like combat ones are really good. I just wish that we got something more fitting for the atmosphere sometimes. Like, we got a few moments where we got to sit down and take a breather and realize, man, like, we're here. But like, I wish we got like maybe just 2-3 more tracks. That's just like, we're in the Pale Heart of the Traveler. Let's not even just take a second, because I know in lore we're like rushing to beat the Witness, but like kind of just more so speaking to the player than the character, you know, like, look around you, look at this beautiful scenery we made, look at this beautiful environment we made, listen to this beautiful music we made. And I think it does that sometimes, but I wish it did it more, because Beyond Light definitely did that. Witch Queen 100% did that. I love the Witch Queen soundtrack, and I mean, honestly, even Lightfall did that. Not saying this one didn't, it's just, I feel like it didn't have as much as that as it needed. Again, that being said, it's a B+, fantastic soundtrack, still recommend it to everyone. But composers have definitely done better in the past few years. So, yeah. All right, replayability. Gonna go ahead and get you sped through this because this is a pretty quick part. It's an A+, the best that I've seen in this franchise, honestly. Post-campaign, you would think that there'd be an exotic quest, a random side quest that gives you lore, or maybe some legendary loot / world drop loot, and then some Easter eggs to find. No. No, you're very wrong if you think that's it. Post-campaign had an insane amount of content. So first off, the campaign ends, story continues in the raid, which hasn't really happened since, I want to say, Forsaken, but hasn't happened to this scale since, I want to say, The Taken King, which, insanity. I love it. I love it so much. Anyway, after you finish the campaign, you have Overthrows to do, which, love as an activity. I think it feels great, and I think it fits the atmosphere a lot, because you feel kind of alone just in general, but like, after the campaign, it makes you feel kind of like there's a power vacuum, and I really like that. 2, you have the Mika quests, which, love those 2. I think it was really cool bringing a character that is so big in the lore just into the game, like making them come to life, and I love that. Along with that, you also have to do the Kvasov quest, which, yeah, that's a long quest. I don't be like me and set aside like 2 hours thinking you're gonna get done. No, it's a long quest. Anyway, you have that quest though. You also have, what is it? you have all the collectibles to find, which there's so many different collectibles. And the little memories that you get from overthrow chests, along with microcosm, which you do from something called cooperative focus. We haven't ran through that yet. We haven't had time to run through it yet, but we are going to run through it. And if we need to adjust this, we will. But I highly doubt cooperative focus is going to change the replayability. It looks cool. I like that they did that. And I don't really think I need to go much in detail about the 12-man activity. That felt great. I feel great about that. I love it. I think just generally the campaign felt whole. I had a reason to go back to the Pale Heart, whether that be grinding Ergo Sum, just kind of chilling out, looking for collectibles, getting one of the freaking exotics or weapons. Like, I like the weapons they gave us for the world drop this time. So I want to get more of them, which is a rarity. You know, like, I felt good about the patrol zone for the first time ever. Like, I think the last time I actually liked patrol was base, like, Destiny 2 Red War, when public events dropped too many exotics. Like, I do not think I've liked patrol this much since. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't really know what else to say. A+, it deserved it. This Bungie did great work here. Anyway, next up, we're getting to the part that's gonna probably be mainly just yapping, but that would be our gameplay section, which we've actually called in a little bit of an expert for, but we'll get into that in a second. All right, so gameplay. This one's going to be split up into a few parts, but generally you got the idea from earlier. I'm going to talk about encounter design real quick, and then we're going to go into detail about a few things. One of which being prismatic, the other being the new subclasses, and then just general balancing how the game feels now. So, I'm going to be going over the actual like campaign gameplay, legendary campaign stuff, but yeah. So to start, I think we gave gameplay A. Yeah, it was an A, just straight A. Sitting here with Ging this time. He's always here. But no, we gave it an A. Mainly because the encounter design felt kind of repetitive. And I got into that a little bit in the story, like narrative section. But just like kind of go a little bit more into detail of that. Like, the gameplay felt good, okay? But a lot of the encounters felt like they, for one, forced you to use prismatic, which I understand narratively it kind of makes sense, but also like in a power fantasy game, no one likes being forced to run something, and we'll get into that when our little expert comes out here and talks about some things. But no, like, I think generally the gameplay felt good. The issue was when it came to missions, they designed a mission around a mechanic or around a structure that they had in mind, which in some missions or most missions, it was boss fight or a little ad clear area that introduces the mechanic, mini boss fight that kind of develops the mechanic, boss fight, and then boss fight. Like, it really was like either the second and the last one was either a boss fight or it's an ad clear horde. And I think the most guilty one of this, the last mission, and I want to preface here, I've played through the last mission and the story mode numerous times at this point. I've played it on Legendary, I've played it on Normal. I understand the last mission was meant to be something that was like, kind of, you're fighting through hordes and hordes of enemies, but at a certain point, it stops feeling good. Okay? I want to go ahead and say this because I've played it with different groups, and a lot of these newer players, I didn't say anything, they've mentioned this issue. Like, so pretty much the last mission, you start off, you fight a tormentor in a little area with prismatic. I mean, it wasn't that bad. Okay, whatever. Then you go forward and you have to fight subjugators with this little, like, kind of like, it's like a Ron mechanic, kind of like a like safe from the darkness kind of mechanic. You go in there, you fight a few subjugators, fight little big hive dudes with the ones from the old Haunted Forest activity. They're like dragging around their swords. You get 2 fucking symbols, bring them back up, and you fight a boss in the same room. That's like a Taken Knight, I think. I think it was Taken Knight. After you finish that room, literally like less than 2 minutes later, you're at another boss fight that uses the same mechanic, but it's a giant ogre this time. Then after that, you go up and do a little bit of navigating, go through this little cool area, go into the witnesses area where they have the boss fight, and you fight another 3 subjugators. If you get my point, it's like, I understand the thought process, but they got a little crazy here. And yeah, and with our point narratively, like about pacing, it really comes into play here. It's like, there's a point when you're playing a game, right? Like, I understand immersion. There's a point when it gets too much. Like, it's not difficult, but it's kind of apathetic. Like, you're like, I just want to get this story beat done at this point. I don't want to sit here and kill another 2 waves of ads, fight another boss that goes immune halfway through its health bar, do another mechanic. Like, honestly, I think that this can be said about a few missions in the DLC. And again, they're still good. They're good. But it was the last DLC. I was kind of hoping they would have maybe like eased up on the immune phase kind of parts of bosses. But I get it. I really do. Not really taking much off for that. I think, honestly, like I said earlier, they overcompensated, but that means they listened. So I think that's the most important thing here. They listened. Again, though, it was kind of crazy how often there were darkness zones and how often that you had to stop with the story and do like a 10-minute encounter and then pick up for another 4 lines of dialogue and then do another 10-minute encounter. It just definitely screwed the pacing a little bit, and it's just how it is. I mean, wasn't bad. I definitely recommend for people who are playing it narratively, like I always recommend, play it on normal. It still doesn't change the encounters, but it does like keep it more consistent, because really like difficulty was very meh throughout the campaign. I mean, it was okay up until the final boss fight. Then the witness boss fight out of nowhere actually got difficult. I don't know what happened, but like the entire campaign we kind of breezed through, and then the witness boss fight took us like 2 hours because we were doing it 3-man with 3 titans, and everyone knows how great titans are, and we'll get into in a minute how great Titan Prismatic is. Anyway, speaking of Prismatic, we got 3 people and there are 3 classes. I'm gonna introduce our guest first. So, Jason, come here.
Hey!
Our boy Pasta is gonna go over the Hunter Prismatic.
Is that you?
I'm gonna go over the Warlock, and Ginga's gonna go over the Titan. And
I'm definitely qualified for that.
get ready, because this is probably gonna be our most personalized version of the review. Anyway, let's do Hunter first.
I'm Pasta Cat from Bearfin, and I'm going to talk about Hunter Prismatic. So, I got a lot of things to say about Hunter Prismatic. Probably one of the best prismatics you can take into in-game activities. Due to its 2 starting aspects, it's probably the best survivability, because all you have to do is throw your melee, kill something, you're invisible. Super easy. The problem I have with it, though, is bringing it into in-game, like, GMs. You're no healing. You got any of the supers you want, but with the aspects, good luck healing. Being invisible, though, is very helpful with Golden Gun. So good. But I'm just worried. I think they should add more to it. Originally, I thought they were going to add everything for everyone. You can use whatever aspect, whatever grenade, but I do understand that would break PvP and PvE. Bosses would have to be changed completely. I'm happy with how Hunter turned out. Because with Prismatic coming out, I have actually switched to a Hunter main myself. The main exotics I would use with Hunter, though, were still the same as it would be with other subclasses. Just Celestial Nighthawk or probably Raiju's Harness for PvP. Doesn't really change much. It kind of feels the same as Hunter was originally. Still probably the best. So for balancing, I think the supers and the division of stuff for Hunters probably the best between the three. Being able to have Golden Gun while invisible is kind of crazy. I feel like this is gonna change not only rating. GMs are probably gonna be a little bit easier, but again, I wouldn't take Prismatic too far into a GM. The dungeons, I'm glad they decided to up the power scale for dungeons and raids by 5. It actually feels a little bit more challenging, because before you could one phase probably every boss. Now it does feel a little bit more difficult. Caretaker, you definitely can feel it. Recently we did a raid on Val, and it was, you could do 10 million damage and you would just get to the R in Caretaker. So it has been getting a lot more difficult. So now I'm going to talk about the new super. The reason why I separate it from the others is because I got a lot of things to say about it. And as someone who's used it a little bit recently, I gotta say it is probably one of the best PvP supers out of any class. Being able to just look at a target from across the map, teleport, kill it, so good. But I feel like that's the only thing it was designed for. The aspect is pretty useful. You can jolt targets. If you have a good build with that, it's great. But again, with the super, it's not very good. Just using the super, I feel like takes damage away from even ads. It's not a good ad clear. It barely can clear a room full of acolytes. I would say literally any other super on Prismatic is probably better. But it is a very cool idea. My complaints about it is I wish it either had more charges or each charge did more damage. And the Exotic 4, I feel like, doesn't impact it too much. It sounds like it does, but when you feel it on, it feels the exact same but takes up an exotic slot. I would just stick to Golden Gun with Hunter, and I'm going to use Prismatic, but not that new super.
Alright, so next up is Warlock. I want to go ahead and preface this. We're doing this in best to worst fashion, so get prepared for Titan. Anyway, I have a few things to say. I really liked Warlock. I really think Prismatic for Warlock felt pretty good. I like the grenade. It feels pretty nice, I'm not gonna lie. I really, really like Devour on it. It feels good. Definitely probably the best healing option out of the 3 classes, I think. And honestly, just generally, it feels pretty good all around. I think the choices for Warlock do feel a little limited, especially in the grenades. But, like, I can kind of look past it because Prismatic for Warlock has its own little gameplay loop. I think it feels good to be able to pretty much heal off of any enemy with any different buff. I feel like you can build it into a real, like, just hard hitter, honestly. I'll run it in pretty much anything. I don't know how it will be in GMs, to be honest with you. I really don't. but I think generally Warlock Prismatic is going to be a good all-rounder for PvE and probably PvP. I think the supers it gave it is good enough to work in PvP. Honestly, just yeah. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's nothing like groundbreaking. I don't want to like make it sound like it's amazing, but like it's definitely pretty good. I mean, it's stable. I do want to get into a little bit of the balancing portion with Warlock, but that'll maybe probably most likely be when I talk about the new supers. That being said, Prismatic for Warlock is very middle ground of these two. Hunters is great, Titans is terrible, Warlocks is pretty good. I mean, I use it. I definitely switched from being a Titan to play Warlock. I'm now a Warlock main. Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna move on to the new super for it. All right, so Radiance. Radiance from Destiny 1, now in Destiny 2. Honestly, I love it. I mean, I don't know how a lot of people feel on it. I think it's fun. I like being able to throw bird grenades and become fucking Roy Mustang for a second. But like, that being said, I think that Radiance being in the game in the way it is, and the other supers being the way it is, I don't know how much room there is for it or how long it will last. I think Radiance feels great. I have yet to use it in a final encounter of a raid or use it in any sort of Grandmaster or anything like that. I don't know how it feels in in-game yet. I'm going to be honest with you, which I'm going to be testing it out when I do some more raids along the weekend, and if I feel like I have to change something on this review, I will. But from where it stands right now, I've played the campaign, I've played a few things on it, I've done a little bit of VOW on it, and I ran it with a few different just little raid encounters I hopped in with people. But I want to say that feels good, does pretty good damage, has pretty good swaps. But I don't think it's going to be as groundbreaking of a support super as like Well was. That being said, Well, yikes. I mean, it's still usable, but I don't know, man. Like, whew, I my team switched to Ursa's because of the 40% buff, and honestly, like, I don't know. I think I prefer it that way. I've been wanting Ursa's back for a while, but like, it's just kind of weird. I don't know. I've gotten so used to using a Well. Yeah, Warlock, honestly, for this DLC to just kind of finalize it. I know it was a bunch of yapping, but like, it's very in the middle. I mean, nothing groundbreaking, nothing like crazy broken, nothing terrible. I mean, I think the worst crime Warlock had was the fact that instead of solar nades, it had healing nades as its solar grenade, which I get it. I understand why, because of that new exotic. But I also want to say the only reason they did that was because of Sunbracers and nade builds. And I think that this is something that'll come up with the Titans. They were kind of predatory in their picks on what they decided to use. They definitely picked around things that not just were used more, but they definitely decided, okay, we're going to pick one thing per element, just because we really want to not have these problems, like, you know, trip mines for Hunters, solar nades for Warlock, and grapple for Titan, which that's a crime that grapple's not in all three classes, but I digress. Anyway, Warlock's very middle of the road. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's great, but not amazing like Hunter. That being said, we're gonna move into Titan, and that'll be Ging. So, Ging, here you go.
Alright, I'm going to be talking about Prismatic Titan. And all I gotta say is Banner War. Thank you. No. Seriously, it is a crime that Banner of War isn't on there. Because why do we have Knockout as the healing thing? But I think that starting out as a Prismatic Titan in Final Shape was awful. They gave us, what was it? The grenade was, it was Strand, which was Shackle, and
the Thunder one.
the basically only
Where's the suppressor? Can't remember.
it was Storm Grenade, yes.
Oh.
And that was I couldn't even get past the first boss. I was tweaking, and honestly, just as it got on, it just didn't get any better. They gave us all those things that honestly I just felt like they didn't want to deal with. Like, we didn't get Banner of War, we got Knockout, which was horrible. The only real good thing that I think we got was a new
The shield.
the shield. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool, but it hardly ever worked. And and we also got Consecration, which Consecration with the new exotic, you can consecrate 4 times in a row, which is crazy. And mixing that with Knockout probably would be a good healing thing, but I don't want Knockout. Being forced to use Knockout is not fun, and I just think that it's just horrible. It's a horrible thing. They give us the what else did we get for Solar?
Our supers kind of suck. I'm not gonna lie.
Super good suck, yeah.
Small hammers.
Small hammer, yeah. Oh, the solar melee, solar melee not being tiny hammer. It's so bad. Why did they not? It upset my soul. And no grapple. That's like the only thing I play Titan for. That's I can't I don't understand. I Pasta came into this thinking that we was gonna get everything and just pick and choose, and the week before, just having that pulled out from under the rug was sad and everything. Why give us Shackle? Why give us Shackle and then a way to they gave us a way to suspend enemies with the Strand aspect. Why give us double ways when we didn't get double ways for anything else, really? And it's just upset. The only thing I like is the 4 consecrations. That's funny. In the Void new thing. Now, Unbreakable, yes, like that one song from the early 2000s. And I did like the super though. I haven't used it outside of the campaign, but it wasn't very usable inside the campaign. I think that just the kind of enclosed thing did not make way for it being good. But I did like it. The three axes, I think it's so cool, and being able to pick it up. If it was done correctly, I think it would have been a massive change to DPS. But I just don't see that. Unless, for example, for Caretaker, we had one pop it, and then everybody run out and come back through for the other Void Super, the one that you just shoot through and it does more damage. And maybe that will make it stronger, but it's just not practical for when you have things like Strand and Bonk Hammer. But I just think that just overall, I've used Hunter. I haven't used Warlock because I'm not a Warlock guy, but Hunter.
He has 2 Titans.
I do have 2 Titans. Thanks. Thanks for the call out. But I have been using Hunter, And I used Hunter. I still haven't finished the story with Hunter, so my Prismatic isn't completed. But it does feel better than Titan, just overall. I don't know. I'm going to be sticking with Banner of War, so even though it was nerfed.
All right, Uso's back. Really just to kind of gather all our thoughts. So generally, Prismatic and the new supers felt pretty good. But, you know, pretty good isn't necessarily what you want in the ideal situation for a final DLC. I think, look at Strand. Everyone clowned on Strand, and then we got Strand, and everyone was like, holy shit, Strand is fucking, holy shit. It's the shit. I love it. But looking at it now, some people are like that with Prismatic, but most people, especially Titans, I feel like are a little disappointed because it felt like it was supposed to be this big moment where we are mastering light and dark and putting them together in like a harmonious kind of fashion. But why then are we locked to certain choices? And of course there's the balancing thing, and they're like, Bungie's gonna add more later, but listen, I'm not judging off of what Bungie will add, I'm judging what we have, you know? And I think, yes, there's a lot of potential for them to add stuff, but I also think that Bungie kind of misrepresented it. I know they were kind of upfront, and we did get like things that were stating like what we would have about a month out, or maybe it was 2 months out from the actual DLC launch. But I will say this, they still, with the way they were presenting it, made it feel like you were going to be a master of these things. And I don't think it shows. I think when you come from Strand, I'm going to use Strand as an example here, and you can suspend, sever, and grapple to targets and summon little things. Every class can use threadlings, every class can use grapple, every class can use shackle. I think it feels good because, yes, while narratively each one has its own little purpose, Titans are meant to suspend, Warlocks are meant to summon threadlings, and Hunters just grapple all over the place. I don't think that now was the time to reassert the roles. Because they did that, I feel like each role had its own little identity crisis. Titan, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know what the fuck Titan's supposed to feel like. I went through the Legendary campaign on Titan and played a good bit of the game before I switched to Warlock. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I just don't like how Prismatic Titan feels. The grenade is okay. The general playstyle is okay. I mean, there are some funny builds, but there's really only 2 to 3 builds you can make. I mean, there are, of course, more builds, but there are like 2 or 3 practical builds. You're either going to run Consecration and the funny little knockout. You're going to run Diamond Lance and the stasis stuff. Or you're going to run, what's it called? The last one, which is Dringer's Lash and then knockout probably. I mean, it's really just Dringer's Lash and then funny dodge to suspend targets. But realistically, when are you using that? You know, like, I think Prismatic Titan was a missed opportunity. Prismatic Warlock was also kind of a missed opportunity because I think Warlock of all these 3 needed to feel the most open because they are meant to be space wizards. And while it does have a little bit of that fantasy, it kind of gets lost in the restricted options. And Hunter, I mean, Hunter feels good, but even then, like, just for the sake of it, Bungie needs to unlock all the options. I know it would break the game. I think we're all aware it would break the game. I think Bungie was aware when they conceptualized Prismatic, it would break the game. But, I mean, it is how it is. I mean, maybe make it to where certain options are limited in PvP or something. I mean, I hate posing problems without posing a solution, but honestly, I've never been one to give a shit about balancing to begin with. I enjoy PvP, but I enjoy PvP a lot more when I'm just doing shit in it. When I'm throwing 3 giant fucking axes, or when I'm running around as a hunter just fucking tethering people in mayhem, which is so fucking fun. It pisses people off so bad. But I really do think that Bungie needs to either A, do separate sandboxes and worry about balancing that way, or B, just kind of say fuck it. I mean, honestly, PvP's been in the shitter for years. Let's just fuck around with it. Like, honestly. That being said, though, that's not being put into account when we talk about like gameplay and stuff. But I'm just saying, my opinion. Anyway, next up, we really just got opinions, personal thoughts, stuff like that. I mean, yeah. Balancing was kind of thrown in with the supers, just to comments. We were going to do a separate thing, but we decided we're going to make it part of it, each thing. Anyway, personal thoughts.
As for final thoughts, I think Final Shape was probably one of the best DLCs I've played in Destiny. I think it suffers from the opposite effect of Lightfall, where great story, terrible subclass. Lightfall was great subclass, terrible story. Even with looking at it from just story, I think Final Shape, I enjoyed probably about every mission. Legendary made it less enjoyable, definitely, especially 3 manning it. Maybe if I played it alone or maybe just normal mode, I would probably find a lot more enjoyment in the story. It's a real shame that, again, combining all the subclasses, we got left with Prismatic. And although I do gotta say, it does feel like through the story they were forcing us to use Prismatic. I mean, of course they were, it was about Prismatic, but it just didn't feel like it was meant to be there. I often forgot that punching your wrist gave you a cool grenade. But it honestly kind of sucks that this is how Final Shape turned out with the subclass. The story, great. The exotic missions are probably the best exotic missions in the game. Still Hunt is probably my favorite exotic mission, period. Same with Ego Sum. Ergo Sum. Is a very interesting exotic, and I think it actually, if they do more exotics like this, it will actually give us an excuse to do public events. Because before, getting a blue gun was crazy cool from a public event, but I'm not really interested in doing it. Yeah, that's all I gotta say.
All right, so my thoughts. I honestly really enjoyed this DLC. I'm usually one that's pretty negative, and I really don't have much to say other than what I've already said about mission design and OST. I loved the way that they didn't focus on answering so many questions, but they focused on the characters and the world. I think that was a huge step for Bungie, and I love what they did there. It's definitely the most immersed I felt in the campaign. I even like that when you try and go to the tower, it gives you a warning. That's meant to be played continuously, not like, you know, oh, I'm gonna do this mission, go to the tower, or do a raid. Like, it's meant to be played in one go, and I really like that Bungie realized that. Felt good. I liked just generally everything. Prismatic Titan, yeah. As a Titan main, I'm a little pissed off at Bungie for that, but you know, it is how it is. I mean, Consecration's cool for like an hour, I guess. It's a joke, but not really. But I enjoyed it. I think this is the best PvE has felt in the game for a long time for me personally. I like the options I have. I like Warlock a lot better now. I like how the game meshes. Yeah, I think yeah. Usually here we would all each say our own ratings, and let you decide if it's worth it or not. But we've all kind of been in agreement with this, and Ging's gonna share the rating and close the video out. So that being said, Yeah, that's his turn.
As a guy that's kind of been on and off Destiny for the past couple of years, I haven't really played Destiny since Beyond Light, and I was hardly playing it then. And then I would pop in and play the expansions. I didn't finish Witch Queen. I didn't finish Lightfall when it came out. I really enjoy what they did here. I'm a man of I play a lot of single player games, and it really gave me that experience, especially like with how the Traveler was empty. It really just felt like I was just alone, and I don't know, I really like that vibe. I play a lot of just games like that, and I really liked it. The story was incredible. The characters were amazing. Prismatic. It's prismatic. We've all said our piece on that. And overall, I think that like it's brought me back into Destiny, and I'm gonna play all the episodes and like finish the story on my hunter. Maybe I might make a warlock, but I gotta delete my second Titan. But overall, I really enjoyed this. The legendary campaign made me want to do violent acts, but overall, I enjoyed it. And yes, for my thoughts, overall, we gave this an A. I think that it does incredibly well to end off this 10-year story. And yes, there's still some questions, but the story's not over. So we'll probably get them later on. That wasn't their goal, and I don't know if they ever set it up to be their goal. So I think they did fantastic on what they set out to do. So with those thoughts out of the way, we thank you for watching and enjoying this kind of yap sesh and our kind of take on a review. This is new. We're probably going to do more. And other videos are on the way. Baldur's Gate, we're actually working on that. Maybe tonight if their games will download.
Mine's done. Mine's done.
Is it?
Yeah, it's definitely done. It was at like 30% like an hour and a half ago.
Oh. And we got the actual just yap sesh for this coming out.
That has a lot more people in it.
Yeah. And we got like Not My Destiny cooking. That's gonna be a while. And I think our D&D is gonna continue soon. We've all just been working on the background. Appreciate your patience, and I hope you enjoyed and will continue to enjoy.